I'm certain you know who I am by now, Reverend Penny Honey, and I am hailing from Unity of Flagstaff here in Flagstaff, Arizona. It is my joy and my honor to serve the Unity Spiritual Center of Albuquerque. Who knew I'd be in Albuquerque today? And a little shout out to Bob Jones. Thank you, Bob, for making this recommendation. I'm honored. I just finished Bob's meditation class. If you get an opportunity, I highly recommend it. So the topic today is forgiveness, and I will tell you, it is not one of my favorites. When they told me that, of course, today's daily word was forgiveness, I sat with that a little bit. When I went into my quiet time in my meditation, I said, I wonder what those folks in Albuquerque would like to talk about. And forgiveness came up. So here we are. Let's give it a whirl. How about it? In this season of Lent, it is a season of reflection and preparation. And that is the 40 days that we're currently in. It marks the 40 days before the big celebration, of course, of Easter. And many spiritual practices see it as a time to replicate the sacrifice, all that was given up, and the practice of reflection, as was told in the story of Jesus going to the desert for 40 days. However you celebrate it, however you see it, whatever that is for you, maybe it's the spring equinox, maybe it's just a time. Whatever it is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to reflect, and it's an opportunity to consider, what could I release that no longer serves me? I say, let's really give something up this Lenten season. Really. And let's start by looking at what we have to forgive. Now, I don't know about you, but it doesn't matter how much forgiveness work I do, because it just seems like I keep picking up things along the way. Let them go, pick them up, let them go, pick them up. I don't know about you, so if you don't have anything to forgive, I've got a whole list I'll be glad to share with you. You know, the Buddha reminds us of this when we talk about letting things go that we no longer need. You will not be punished, the Buddha tells us. You will not be punished for your anger. However, you will be punished by your anger. When I sit with that and think about that, this is what drops in for me. I won't be punished for my thoughts of lack, for my thoughts of less than, for seeing myself as anything less than a divine child of God, but I sure as a heck will be punished by those thoughts. How about you? Ever have those thoughts? I say let's give them up. I say let's forgive them up. You know, the definition of forgiveness in the Revealing Word, of course, which was authored by a co-founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore, is this. Forgiveness is a process of giving up the false for the truth and erasing error from the mind and the body. Sounds like a perfect place to start for me. How about you? Whether you relate to this season of giving up as the Easter story, possibly it's Ridvan of the Baha'i tradition, Passover, the tradition of our Jewish families, or whatever you relate the sacrifice or the giving up to, it is a time set aside to reflect and give something up, to release to that something or some things that no longer are yours to do, to hold, or to be. You know, to erase the separation that I and you have created between the little self and our divine expression, that might be a place to start. To give something up that no longer represents the spiritual being that I am. The spiritual being that I am. Resurrecting into, if you will, returning to my undying state, as Charles Fillmore says it. So let's really give something up. Let's do some major erasing. Let's step into forgiveness. That is definitely an act of giving up, of giving something up. Let's give up the false thoughts about ourselves and others. Let's see it right, as we are invited into in New Thought. Forgiveness is seeing it right. Some things can never be set right, but they can be seen right through the eyes of forgiveness. And from that perspective, we truly can see more clearly our own divinity. And I certainly can see more clearly your divinity when I can come from that perspective. We can be in the heart of what matters in our lives when we remember that we are divine children of God and that we are willing to release anything and everything that separates us from that truth. Now, maybe you don't have any forgiveness to do. Maybe you don't have a need for any forgiveness. Good for you. Yay, you. I'd love to talk to you. My email is office@unityofflagstaff.org. But I suspect that most of us in the room, whatever room you're in, most of us have something. And you know, we may be able to find something in this quote from the book. It's The Life is Joy. This Life is Joy, by Roger Teal. All conflicts, he tells us, are forgiveness opportunities in disguise. That's a stretch sometimes. Though difficult, every conflict is a mighty and wondrous opportunity to bring forth the very best in you. It is the sacred opportunity to let contention lead to invention, to the breakthroughs that open the heart. I think Mr. Teal would have agreed with Charles Fillmore from the book Keep a True Lent when Charles Fillmore said this: "Our most important study is of our own mind." Mr. Fillmore tells us not only the intellectual mind, but the spiritual mind. Know thyself, he says, just as it was inscribed over the door at the temple of Apollo. It needs to be inscribed over the temple, over the door of our mind, to know thyself. We must become acquainted, he goes on, with our own mind. Now, as this relates to forgiveness, we must know our own mind. What are those things that we've never reconciled with our divine selves? Let's forgive those. Let's let those go. Let's give those up for Lent. Let's give those up. If we know our own mind, I am sure that we will discover that we have one or two of those things that we can let go of. Gosh, I think of some things that I've said to people, actions I've taken. You know, I raised 5 stepchildren. Well, you don't know that, but I raised 5 stepchildren. And I figure I did my part to stimulate the economy because I'm sure there are at least 3 therapists out there that have lifetime jobs. But until I know myself, until I am willing to know and own the things about myself that are true, I can honestly say, well, I'd do that differently. When I know myself, I can honestly be in that place of transformation. When I'm willing to look at the truth of who I am and to keep looking until the truth of who I am shows up. That divine child of God that is already forgiven, that is perfect in expression exactly as they are. When I know my divine self, when I know that, it's in that moment, it is in that moment that I can truly let go of anything that separates me from being my greatest expression, and it starts with forgiveness. My divine self was evolving and is ever evolving when I was raising those 5 children. We were all learning how to do it, and I don't know that we got it right, but we got it done. I forgive my ignorance and my malice and my anger and even an expression of pain. And until I know myself and I can hold that authentically within me, that I am a divine child of God, perfect in expression, even that in the divine light of the divine being that I am, until I forgive myself, my chance of being that higher expression is pretty tiny. My chance of really being the expression that I am called into as the divine child of God that I am, that you are, doesn't stand a chance if I'm not willing to know myself and to forgive who I am and what I may have been, or whatever expression that is that I consider less than my divine self. Until I choose to study my own spiritual mind, as Charles Fillmore was talking about, and reconcile who I desire to be now, until I feed compassion and empathy and love and forgiveness to my own soul, I will not be that higher expression. Now, my sources say that this story is from the Cherokee elders. You may have heard it differently, but this is the way I know it. One evening, an elderly Cherokee brave told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside of people. He said, "My son, the battle is between 2 wolves. Inside us all, one is evil. It is anger and envy and jealousy and sorrow and arrogance and greed and regret and self-pity and resentment and ego. The other wolf is good. It is joy and peace and love and hope and serenity and humility and kindness and faith and forgiveness." The grandson thought about it for a minute, and then he asked his grandfather, he said, "So in that battle, which of the wolves won?" And the old Cherokee simply replied, "The one that got fed." Till we feed the wolf, the good one, the one of generosity and love and hope, we will not only destroy ourselves, but we will starve those around us of the same. This is not just about giving up those things that no longer serve us. It's about giving up those things that deny us the love and the connection to others. I wonder in this time of pandemic, how many folks have said, "Wow, I wish I hadn't started that fight, because now I don't even have the opportunity to be in the presence of that person to heal that." You know, separation seems like punishment. And when we refuse to forgive others, that's exactly what we create. We create separation, isolation, not only from the divinity of others, but from our own divinity. You know, it's not about setting it right. It really is about seeing it right. It's not about whether they made mistakes or they've made amends. It's not about whether they love me back. It's not about whether they forgive me. It's about me giving up what separates me from connection and love and wholeness and the pure expression of the divine within me. Now, forgiveness is not condoning or saying that the behavior was okay. It's not about justifying it. It's about giving it up so that I can be free. In the Bababam, a tribe of South Africa, when a person acts irresponsibly or unjustly, he's placed in the center of the community, right in the center of the village. Alone, there he stands in the center of the village, and all work in the village stops. And every man, woman, and child create a large circle around the accused. Then each person in the tribe speaks to the accused, one-on-one, each recalling all the good things that that person in the center of the circle had done in their lifetime. Every incident, every experience that can be recalled with as much detail and accuracy as possible is recounted. All their positive attributes, all their good deeds, all their strengths, all their kindness, it's all recited carefully and at length. Sometimes these ceremonies can last several days. At the end of this ceremony, the tribal circle is broken and a joyous celebration takes place. And the person is symbolically and literally welcomed back into the tribe. Anyone interested in that kind of forgiveness? I know I am. I'll take it. You are that forgiveness. You have that opportunity to welcome yourself back into the tribe of your divine expression. And we do that through forgiveness. You have that opportunity to offer that same kind of forgiveness, kindness, and compassion to those around you. And you know, to err is human, to forgive is divine. So let's really give something up. When it's hard to consider forgiving, think on these words from Keep a True Lent, again, by Charles Fillmore. There is divine goodness at the root of all existence. And he also tells us this: the goodness sleeps in the recesses of every mind and comes forth when least expected. Now I'm going to do a little metaphysical interpretation of that statement. The goodness sleeps in the recesses of every mind. How better else to awaken the good than to open the doors of those recesses in our minds and our hearts? And according to Reverend Penny Honey, forgiveness is the gatekeeper to our next higher expression. Forgiveness holds the keys, the key to the kingdom of freedom. And isn't that what we're invited into in this season? Reflecting on freedom from limitations, freedom from separation of our divine selves. Forgiveness is not the result of release. Forgiveness is an expression of release. And I'm going to say that again. Forgiveness is not. It is not the result of release. It is the expression of release. Still not sure that you're free from whatever it is that has you bound? Those things that limit you? Not sure that you've authentically forgiven yourself and others and let go of things? Well, here's a measuring stick. Emily Cady, a Unity teacher, minister, and writer, of course, tells us in How I Use the Truth, one of the surest signs that you are no longer in bondage is that you are free in your willingness to give others their freedom, to allow others the privilege of seeking and finding God as they will, to forgive. You know, there's a great Don Henley song. It's called Heart of the Matter. And in that song, he says this: the more I know, the less I understand. All the things I thought I knew, I'm learning again. And I've been trying to get down to the heart of the matter. But my will gets weak, and my thoughts seem to scatter. But I think it's about forgiveness. Is it easy? You mean the process of giving up the false for the truth? You mean the process of erasing the separation from our divine selves and erasing error thinking from the mind? Is it easy? I suppose it can be. You get to choose. Which wolf are you going to feed? Will you choose to see it right? I think it's about forgiveness. Namaste, my friends, and thank you again.